Welcome, beloveds. My name is Sheena with Living the Steps. This is a place devoted to recovery, honesty, and the possibility of freedom. This is a series of conversations with people who have walked a path of addiction and chosen a different way, often not once, but many times until it became a way of life. Here, we honor lived experience. We don't glorify addiction and we don't rush the healing. Each guest is invited to share only what feels safe and true for them in this moment. Nothing shared here is meant to replace professional care, community support, or the wisdom of a program. These conversations are simply offerings, stories of courage, humility, and remembering together what is possible. So if you're listening and finding yourself reflected in these words, know that you are not alone, that there is always hope, there is always help, and there are many paths home. So before we begin, let's go ahead and just take a cleansing, purifying breath together, inhaling gently and exhaling fully. I am so grateful that you are here. Today, I am joined by my soul sister, Chrystal Fireheart. She is an empowerment coach, a heart led guide, and founder of Operation Radiate. Her work is rooted in the belief that some of the most powerful leaders are born through the fires of heartbreak, loss, and life's hardest transitions. After walking her own path of healing from codependency, control, and self abandonment, she now helps others reconnect with their inner strength and reclaim their freedom from the inside out. So, thank you, Chrystal Fireheart, for being here today. I'm so grateful for this conversation, for your time, for your presence. And just as we get started, I'd love to hear what season of life you're in right now.
Bloom. I'm in a blooming season.
Yes. I love
Oh,
that.
what an opening. Thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you for being here. Yeah, I'd love to hear just without glamorizing or, needing to re-traumatize or anything like that, but what did addiction look like for you?
Mm. Addiction for me has had so many forms. Um, I think the greatest addiction is self-abandonment that had come into so many of those forms.
Mhm.
It's been years of healing from a lot of self-sabotage with my body and food, alcohol, codependency, perfectionism, control. And I think a lot of times we don't believe or even understand how addiction is interconnected with all of that, but it so is. So it seems to be an ongoing journey. And that's why I speak so boldly on creating freedom from the inside out, because
Mhm.
that's that for me is the journey. So
Very resonant and relatable. When was it for you that you started feeling like things could be a different way? Was there a series of moments? Was there a specific moment that you just thought, I've got to stop self-abandoning, or whatever that experience was like? Did it come in a flash, or what was that like?
well, one of the first addictions that I overcame was with my body. I had such an addiction to perfectionism, and I never thought I did, but it turned into having bulimia for over a decade. And it would be something that would come in and out, and I kept trying to heal it on my own. I knew it wasn't right, but I couldn't stop that energy. And so one of the ahas for me was really going, what is this living through me? It felt like there was two me's, one that really wanted health and really wanted care, and the other that was just hurting myself all of the time, and when I say self-sabotage with the body, that was just only one of the things going on. So I
Mhm.
remember going, is this me? Is this energy me
Mhm.
hurting me? Like, how can I have both? And so I think that was the beginning, the questioning of how is this energy really moving through me, and what control do I have that I don't think I do?
Mhm.
And I think that is the big conversation. It feels like something outside of us, or parts of ourselves controlling it. And I've really loved learning about energetic intelligence and the soul, to
Mhm.
understand where the roots of healing can come from, and where the roots of addiction come from as well. Yes.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah, I totally relate to just those two sides of the same coin of just like whether it's the ego and the soul, or it's these different archetypes that make us up. Like there's the version that wants the healing, and there's the other version that sometimes doesn't even know what is possible on the other side, just
Mhm.
lives from the safety and the comfort. And I know in my journey, part of my um, sobriety journey, my Wellbriety journey was really accepting that part of me that was keeping myself safe, that knew these ways to keep myself safe until it learned a different way. But I think that not all of us consciously know there is another way, especially when it does come to that just toxic treatment of the self. We might have seen it around us, or whatever the case. But sometimes we just don't even realize that we're stuck in this victimhood.
That's right. That's right. There's a tool that, and maybe it's something we could talk about later, but I call it not leaving self, and it's something that I often reference, because I had to realize that we were when that for me, I look at it like a beast. When the beasts of addiction are being fed, and when we're feeding it, a lot of times we don't realize that in those moments we are leaving ourselves. We're stepping out. Things are too painful. We can't process it. And so being able to look at the roots of how to heal this is everything to me. Yeah, I,
Mhm.
I I feel like the clients that I've gotten to work with. I mean, in my work as an empowerment coach, I deal with a lot of people wanting more for themselves,
Mhm.
knowing that there is another powerful version of themselves that they're hungry to step into. So being able to look at the things keeping them in that victimhood, out of their own freedom,
Mhm.
it uncovers a lot. It uncovers a lot that more mainstream everyone goes through, but we don't always talk about, and on
Mhm.
being on this podcast where we're talking specifically about addiction, the roots lie within everyone, you know.
Mhm.
So being able to normalize it,
Mhm.
and to not let separation continue to exist within ourselves and within each other, but to be able to see like, wow, everyone, not most most people are many things at once, and that's
Yeah.
okay. So but let's break it down, and let's get back to connection again.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. What for you felt like the most terrifying about letting go?
Letting go of what?
Whatever it was that was the self-soothe,
Mm.
whatever it was that was keeping you in the bulimia or in the self-abandonment, like what did it look like to let go of that version of you that was doing those things?
I'm someone who has gone through much extremes, so usually by the time it was time to let go, I was fully out of fuel,
Mhm.
feeling like a deadened life force, feeling pretty weak. And at that time, I would call it pretty pathetic, inside of myself. I didn't want people, when you were taught to, a lot of us have these barriers, cultural barriers, even of perfectionism. And,
Mhm.
when you're taught to show one way to the world and then suffer in silence,
Mhm.
yeah, it became for me more terrifying to feel like I couldn't overcome it. And then when I finally did, and it was one piece and then another piece. It is like peeling an onion, because you could have, say, a belief rooted in not enoughness, and
Mm-hmm.
it has an addiction outlet over here, and then you work on that addiction. So for me, that was like when I knew that bulimia was a generational thing and I didn't, and when I first started, when that pattern started to emerge, I didn't know that I was a chain breaker for this. Yeah, I didn't know.
Mm.
But being able to then say, yeah, the buck stops here, and so that's where I've sourced a lot of that. What was most scary was not necessarily being free from it. It was really exciting that I could be. What was most scary is actually believing that I didn't have the power. We're not,
Mm.
yeah, if that makes sense. I kind of,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, that's a sad, you lose a lot of hope. People on my journey have worked in a lot of suicide prevention work, and it's it's an incredible gift to be able to bring back the understanding that people have way more power and choice than they've been taught they have. Yeah. And they're way more lovable than they've been taught they are or believe they are. And some of those roots are are devastatingly opening to feel again because it requires you to actually feel.
Yeah. Yeah. I was really good at disassociating from the feelings when I needed to. That was my superpower at one point. And I was like, oh, wait, I gotta live inside this body. Oh.
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 But for me, the disassociation didn't always work. I tried to pretend I wasn't feeling it. Oh,
Yeah.
it was worse,
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
worse.
What
Yeah.
were some of the resources or spiritual practices or the things that helped? And were there any things that especially didn't help?
Sure. What didn't help was staying in the same environments, around the same limitations, the beliefs, the people that I was around,
Mhm.
because they did not reflect who I was. And
Mm.
even though those beliefs and those inner barriers were my own, the
Mhm.
reflection of it in my reality kept reinforcing what I believed to be true, right? I'm
Yeah.
weak, or I'm not enough, or I'm not wanted, or, it kept reinforcing it. So staying in the same environments were the things that didn't help.
Mhm.
Allowing my own thoughts to spin,
Mhm.
isolation did not help. Um, there are times to go inward to think and to digest, but the isolation piece is dangerous when you're in those heavy feelings, right? What did help was, you and I are both avid lovers of being out in nature.
Mhm.
What really helped was understanding that nature could hold me better than the humans around me could. Right. So
Mm.
I started
Yes.
looking at a Mother Earth as like a mother, and just like releasing into her and releasing some of the feelings and releasing the emotions and knowing that that was just so unhealthy to be holding in my body. And
Mhm.
I love teaching embodied empowerment, embodied leadership work, because being able to embody that power or to release the things that, are walking around overwhelming us,
Mhm.
is so learning how to release, learning that it was okay to feel those things, but to release them was a huge gift. So
Mhm.
that's probably the
Mm.
biggest tool. So getting yourself around people who are embodying energy that
Yeah.
you would love to emanate, or that could teach you how, or being around the people that can hold the container for you to release big emotions.
Mm.
Being able, you and I both have been through so much, and I know we've talked about that behind the scenes,
Mhm.
but it's that energy makes you really strong. It makes you able to hold others during the times when they can't hold themselves or are learning how. And to me, that for as painful as this lifetime has been,
Mhm.
I would never change it, because it's given me the ability to help others.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is no better feeling than being so held by nature
Mm-hmm.
herself. And
Mm-hmm.
like, I still, like, that's part of my practice. We'll just go out into the middle of the woods and just let her hold me when I just know that something is moving through me. I don't need to project it on anybody. And most people, in my experience, I have wonderful, amazing people around me, but not a lot of people can hold the big, huge current that can move through the way that I know nature can. And
Right.
there's never a time that I'll feel bad. I'm like, oh, I'm beating the stick too hard against the ground. Like, no, she's like, get after
Right, right, right. That's it.
it.
That's it. Yeah. I remember really getting in touch with emotions. A lot of women are not taught to release big emotions, or that they can have, rage and anger, and being someone who absolutely loves people and is kind to people, and used to believe that it was my job to hold their emotions too, and to help
Mhm.
people who could, and to carry things that other, I believe me, when I learned, my body started shutting down because it couldn't hold any more sadness. It couldn't hold any more rage. It had a lot of cellular memories, even ancestral memories that I didn't, it took a long time to unravel all that.
Mhm.
And if you don't understand what's going on, I mean, sadly, our world teaches people to numb and suppress, and that they aren't okay having all these big emotions.
Mhm.
It's it's great. It's absolutely great to know Mother Nature, like you said, can hold it, or to learn how to be with those emotions.
Mhm.
That's a great resource, learning how to be with your emotion but not become it, right? Learning how to feel it and let it move through you. A lot of us believe we feel like we're stuck with them because we don't know how to let them move through us. They're
Mhm.
messengers, they're messengers for us. So,
And I know that before we hit record, we were talking about radical responsibility. And
mhm.
what is radical responsibility for you, and how does it show up now?
Wow. Yeah. Self-honesty, self-honesty, knowing that I am responsible for my own energy. I
Mhm.
have played the victim card more than I would even care to admit.
Mhm. Same.
And yeah, right. And
Guilty.
how could you do that to me? Like,
Yeah.
I
Well,
gave you all this stuff, and like how, in my life where I gave you my heart, how could you break it, and I showed up, or how could you do this? How could you reject me? How could you abandon me? Like these rejection, and it
mhm.
victim to other people's bad behavior, victim to this, and it's radical self-honesty is actually one of the most empowering things to have.
Mhm.
I remember really wanting to see more people be honest,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And that's one of the things I love about having conversations with you is we're just radically honest. And in that it's a huge permission slip.
Mhm.
Radical self-honesty may not be the thing that the people around you want to hear, but it is the most healing thing you can give to yourself.
Yes.
This doesn't feel good. This hasn't felt good for a long time. Something inside of me knows something's not right,
Mhm.
right? In the space of my session work, when I'm with people, holding the space for people to actually hear their inner voice,
Mm.
the things that they've tried to push down. We're so logic minded and have been taught in this logical mind to not hear and honor the whispers of the heart,
Mhm.
the whispers of our own knowing.
Mhm.
But inside, believe me, there are some truths that need to be heard. And when they do, when I watch truths come out of people, sometimes their physical ailments disappear, right? Sometimes, like that, once their emotion moves, they have clarity, their creativity, their life force, their zest comes back. They don't need antidepressant meds anymore. Their anxiety subsides because truth is a powerful thing. It's such a powerful thing. So yeah, this is radical self-honesty in the
Mhm.
steps has probably been the biggest one for me.
Yeah.
Really to learn to be yourself and to be okay with that.
Hmm.
It's a huge gift to give yourself and to anyone in your life,
Mm.
right? You get to be free when you're that way.
Yeah. It is
Yeah,
very powerful to be able to, even just the word responsibility, like our ability to respond versus react, just the ability to actually take just a breath, a pause, a moment before just doing that guttural, just whatever, that device that might have been indoctrined in us at one point, and just choosing something different, like taking a second to be like, okay, wait a second. How can I not abandon myself in this moment? What do I need? How can I accept what's here? How can I show up with compassion for the situation, for myself?
right.
There's so many gifts around, again, like you said, just not abandoning yourself in the process, just taking a moment to, and I love the word radical too. I mean, I think radical acceptance was a big part of my journey too. Of acceptance felt really hard sometimes with certain people and certain experiences, but that radical acceptance was like, I choose this for me, not for them, for me, so that I can let go of it, so I'm not being burdened by the past or something that somebody did, and just radically accepting it is what it is. And like you said, it made me stronger. It made me capable of seeing how resilient I am to overcoming what that was.
Right. Two words are coming up as you're speaking, compassion
Mm.
and power.
Mm.
And I think the power to understand the no, the understanding of just how much power we're giving away by
Yeah.
holding on to pain caused by others. And I work really hard to walk my talk.
Mm.
My goodness, lesson after lesson of being able to learn where I've been giving my power away
Mhm.
and how life affirming it can be to understand how to take it back
Mhm.
or where you're leaking it out, you
Mhm.
know. But the other word compassion came up because, we talk about this healing path.
Mhm.
Take, for instance, a lot of the self-abandonment, eating disorders.
Mhm.
When I looked at what I believe were the roots of where some of that came from, right? I was a very sensitive young woman, young girl, and I was not in control of a lot of my environment. And my environment was overwhelming to me.
Mhm.
And I was, learning how to hold my emotions was something I didn't know how to do. Right. And so I really think there was a lot of forms of controlling something, you know.
Mhm.
And I was not someone who ever wanted to hurt anyone else. I wasn't someone that had a loud voice. I didn't like arguments. There's a lot of the warrior energy that's been learned just to understand boundaries and deep self-love and allow, that flex came later. But as a younger woman, to understand that some of that hurting myself was just a form of control, trying to control something. And I could control me because I couldn't control everyone else and took
Totally.
it out on me, right?
Mhm.
The compassion, when that compassion clicked in for that little girl who
Mhm.
just needed someone to listen,
Mhm.
just needed the to be taught like how to move energy differently, how to not harm myself.
Mhm.
I wanted out of my body, whether it was through alcohol, though lived through those chapters, right? Or or through just like wild, I mean, we could go on and on about the different ways to self-abandon,
Mhm.
whether it was through different partners, right?
Mhm.
Whether it was mm, through just self-sacrifice in a lot of ways, giving even when you're empty.
Mhm.
There's a lot of ways we give without refueling. And in learning how to see that hurt little girl inside, that one that just needs to be held or heard or loved or wanted, and
Mhm.
becoming that for myself was everything.
Mhm.
Everything. So
Mhm.
yeah.
That's what I'd love to hear more about, just the freedom on the other side. What does recovery look like for you now? What does that relationship to yourself look like now?
Hmm. I think recovery is an ongoing journey for
Mhm.
sure. Yeah. But I will say that freedom, it's my favorite word. You know?
It's so good.
Yeah, the tagline for Operation Radiate is freedom from the inside out, right? So when I think about what that looks like on the other side,
Yeah.
that looks like moving as a creator in this world, create, an in not feeling so alone.
Mhm.
It really, let me tune into this because this is a great question.
Mhm.
My inhales and my exhales are deeper.
Mhm.
The way that I am embodied in my body is deeper. It's more present. It's full. I don't want to escape my body. I don't want to escape my life anymore. I I know how to take care of myself differently. I love teaching other people how to come back fully into their bodies, how to just honor themselves as sensitive beings. I taught a course once called Inner Strength Training, and we may have talked about this sometime in one of our conversations, but I loved teaching inner strength training. I still love teaching it, but the last time I taught it was maybe 5, 6 years ago. And I taught inner strength training for empaths, highly sensitives, like light workers,
Mhm.
and that filled up. And then I taught inner strength training for busy moms, like people working leaders behind the scenes, like just these like.
Mhm.
And what I found is that inner strength training was being able for a lot of the sensitives that knew they were, it was being able to teach them how to hold themselves, how to be more of that protector for themselves.
Mhm.
But for the people that were running hard and, once that guard was down, it was the same thing. It was being able to teach them how to hold themselves, right? And it was being able to the ones that were sensitives like didn't have a shield on. They
Mhm.
couldn't put up that shield. Like we talked about earlier, I couldn't drink myself into not feeling things. I could pretend I was doing it like everyone else, but I couldn't. I was always feeling. I was always, but being able to disengage that part that is, I mean, I don't want to go off too much on a tangent here. It was incredible to see that the very same tool was needed with the different groups, but one required a de-armoring first, and then the sensitive self was underneath,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And so there was self-sabotage on both ends, but being able to learn to hold one's self is everything. And
Mhm.
I'm on a mission to help others do that. So
You
we
are.
both are. We both are, right? Yeah.
What do you think surprised you the most in your recovery or on this side around freedom?
I felt I never would have considered myself a leader or
Really? What?
never. Oh, no way.
What?
Uh-uh. I didn't want to speak. I was not on stages. I didn't want to be heard. I didn't want to be looked at. I didn't even love myself as a woman. Like I wanted to hide, 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 hide. And the thing that came out of all of this was knowing that I had a voice that I mean, I went in fighting even to speak. I was like, nope, nope, nope. I mean, think about this, right? It's it's understanding that I was powerful, even though I had this deep belief I was powerless. Uh,
Wow.
so yeah.
That surprises me.
I know. People wouldn't get that, right? They're like, no. Mm-mm.
You're a powerful woman. It's so hard to even conceptualize that before version, that version of you that didn't feel that didn't know that, because I see you walking in your dharma and the way that you do influence and inspire. I
Mhm.
mean, you are literally somebody living in their purpose now.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a if I'm proud of anything, it is that have not I've learned how to not shut down my heart,
Mm,
but to be able to move in leadership with it.
mm,
Um, in that, I think that is the kind of leadership that's so important, right?
mhm,
So it, it for all the days I didn't want to show up for myself, I was determined to help others. So,
mm.
that same thing that we learned to not sacrifice ourselves, it's really kind of cool when you're also learn to that you're here to serve humanity, but first you have to learn how to save yourself, right? So
Um,
that's been the case for me.
mhm.
So
One of the biggest things that I think that we as a collective are moving through is, I like to say, is that 12-inch drop from the head to the heart. You know, we had grown up in such a patriarchal, logistic, practical way of perceiving reality.
mm,
And I think all of us are getting that drop of, it's not so analytical, it's not so logical, it's not a thought. You can't think your way through life. You got to feel your way through life. And
mhm,
that drop into living through the heart. And I think the greatest challenge is, like you said, keeping your heart open despite whatever's happening. And I mean, there can be moments of like it getting really compressed and getting contracted, but like trying to keep just a little bit open. But like the idea of keeping it open
right.
and feeling and being with the feelings and not having to articulate everything through, but just, I know that there's no greater joy than just being heard, being witnessed by someone. And sometimes that doesn't even come through an exchange of words. Somebody can be there for you by just sitting next to you or holding your hand or placing their hand on your leg, and you just feel that they are feeling with you. And
Mm.
there's no words that need to be shared. It's just the vibration of empathy and resonance with somebody. And it feels like that's what our humanity is going through right now, is just that drop of dropping in to actually feel and to not numb out and to not distract and to not find a million coping tools that are available to us, whether it is alcohol or food or sex or gambling or scrolling, but to actually be present with what is, and to take that radical responsibility to be here now and to do the best that we can do, and know that while we're on the journey, there are going to be times that I fuck up. There are going to be times that I say the wrong thing, that I do the wrong thing. But if my heart's open for it, if I'm vulnerable and if I'm courageous enough to show up, I know for me, that's doing the best that I can do.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm feeling something come through here because we'll call it like the leader's learning journey, right? One
Yeah.
of the things that I know inside and out about the heart, and is that the heart is so fucking resilient. Like
Yeah.
it, you're speaking to someone whose heart has broken a million times, and it's not fun.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of us try to avoid feeling so much because we don't want that feeling. But it's purgatory living in the cycles of self-abandonment and
Totally.
living in cycles of suppression. It makes me tear up to think how many people are out there hurting themselves because they don't want to feel, because feeling is too much. But you know what? Feeling will look it when your heart breaks, it rebuilds stronger.
Mhm.
Right. And the resiliency that we are being asked to learn and embody right now, you'll see it all over us. This world is going through such such a time of huge drastic shifts and change.
Mhm.
There's a lot of breakdown to break through,
Mhm.
right? It's
Mhm.
why when people go through such big journeys of recovery, we see like the symbol of the phoenix, rising
Totally.
from the ashes, or
Yes.
it's like part of Fireheart medicine. Part of that for me has been to be able to teach how to hold the heart in such gentleness that it will not abandon, such compassion that it's held in safety. When
Mhm.
your body understands and your mind understands you're not leaving yourself, that
Mhm.
no matter what, you're here. You are here in a way that no one else has been.
Mhm.
Learning that muscle is the greatest muscle to teach someone,
Mhm.
because then you go through our hard times, but you know that you're right there and you're not leaving yourself,
Mhm.
even if the world breaks down. Like
Mhm.
where a lot of my work is leading me right now is understanding that we're going through so many identity level shifts,
Mhm.
right? Who
Mhm.
am I without my job that I've had all these years? Who am I if I'm not in partnership? Who am I if I'm not? I mean, when I'm working through people going through transitions, who am I when I'm now, a mother whose children have left the nest? When I'm going through divorce and I'm not a husband or a wife? You
Mhm.
know, during those times, we don't know where we're going. It's confusing, but
Yeah.
learning how to hold yourself through it
Yeah.
is everything.
Yeah.
It's everything.
Yeah.
So, yeah, resiliency. Understanding this is a journey. The human journey is a journey of resiliency.
Yeah.
And all these things that are here to quote break us can break us open into greater strengths than we've ever known before.
Mm.
And I'm telling you, this is coming from someone who is absolutely started off so weak. I think my core is built to lead, but I started off so weak and such a victim to everything. So it's so cool learning how to hold yourself. I'm just trying to fast track people. Like this is, at least if we can take off a few decades of what it might be, we all have learning to do on our own, but if we have helpers, it's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool. Community
Yeah.
is pretty amazing to have around us. And I just marvel too at just like the fact that we can look at a caterpillar turn into a butterfly and we can see that process and we can see them going into the cocoon and like you said stripping away all the identities of what they've been before, and they're going into this thing, they don't know what's going to be on the other side of it, and just the as within so without concept of this reality, to be able to witness that, to see that, to know that we are that, like there is something so beautiful that emerges on the other side of the cocoon period. But we all have to have that cocooning, we all have to have that period of going within, shedding the things that no longer serve. And it can look so different, but it's, to me, it's just fascinating that we can actually observe another species doing it. And we can be like, I'll come back in a week and see them as butterflies.
Right, right, right. And there's that piece in there that I've held on to during moments of complete transformation where I was that mush, right?
Yeah.
And it's that piece where you know that the butterfly has these imaginal cells and they're becoming something that they don't know that they're, like deep down we know, but most of us don't comprehend. We
Yeah.
just see our lives falling apart, our relationships falling apart, ourselves falling apart, but there is deep guidance, this deep guidance connected to the great mystery of life, taking us to these next stages. I think back to those things with all the self-abandonment and addiction and why I really, I would just eat, binge and purge, or alcohol, the numb. And it was when I was scared.
Yeah.
Now when I look back and I'm going, I was either scared to feel, but I was scared because I didn't know what was coming, right? I didn't want to deal with the reality of that I knew something needed to change, or I was going through something and I didn't know where it was going.
Yeah.
But to now look back, I think if I asked you the same thing, when you look back on your life, you couldn't have imagined you would be right here.
Yeah.
Like, but looking back, you're like, wow, that breakup needed to happen in order to grow this muscle, and that needed to have that loss needed to happen in order to shift me into this, new stage of life. But during those moments, we don't know that.
Mhm.
We're not supposed to.
Yeah.
But that mush period becomes a lot because we go through that mush period a lot in life. It's not just
Yeah.
once, right? It's not once. The phoenix doesn't rise from the ashes once.
Yeah.
Once we know that, okay, we are in these continuous cycles of life.
Mhm.
We will birth, we will grow, we will die, we will rebirth over and over to become the ultimate version of who we're here to be, you know?
If someone was listening to this that felt trapped or felt unsure, what kind of words of wisdom would you offer them? What do you think that they would need to hear when they're in the muck?
Hmm. It's a really good question. I want to give you a genuine answer because when you're in the muck, that darkness doesn't allow a lot to reach you.
Yeah.
Makes me sad to think about it because I know that feeling. So I would like to give you a genuine answer that if someone's listening to this and they can't see up from down
Mhm.
or have much hope for themselves or their future, there is this element of surrendering to your feelings, not surrendering to negative, bad thoughts, surrendering to the dark. Sometimes we have to break down to break open.
Mhm.
Sometimes there are things happening that feel like they're end of our life, but they're tracking us into this next chapter. And those moments require supreme trust,
Mhm.
supreme trust. But to do some practices that are, I have this thing I was talking about earlier called it's like the not leaving self reset, right? And anytime that I get overwhelmed or anytime that life feels way too heavy, I take my hand and I put it on my heart. And I just kind of like shake my hand, like I've got my hand like wide five, and just kind of shaking it. And I just said, I got you. Like I got you. And I just breathe and I feel myself holding myself. I can feel, and if I can almost separate from that, I go like, I got you. I'm holding the part of me that is so upset, and I'm holding the part of me that's scared. And then if I can simultaneously lay my back on Mother Earth or lay up against a tree and just feel the support of something beside myself.
Mhm.
In that moment, you're learning how to hold yourself and you're learning how to be supported,
Mhm.
and that you are both of those things, that you have that ability. Because in the dark, we don't feel that. We
Mhm.
want to escape, right? We want to shut down everything because it's too much. But to hold yourself the way you're needing to be held.
Mhm.
I always wanted someone else to hold me. And I was devastated when there was no one else there. So having to learn how to hold myself has been the fucking greatest tool. It's been amazing. And no, not a lot of teachings teach us how to do that, right? So yeah, we're not here to shrink. We're not here to harden. We're not here to abandon. We're here to be, but to be able to hold that self is everything. That's what I would tell someone. Just keep breathing.
Mhm.
Let things move through.
Mhm.
Right? Let things move through. Yeah.
What would you tell the version of you, knowing what you know now, having experienced all that you've experienced now, having the compassion for the other versions of you? What would you say to the version of you that hadn't yet chosen recovery?
I never saw those things as abandoning myself.
Mhm.
But I would probably look at that version now and freaking snuggle hug her, Like
Mhm.
I would just like I just to just to let her know how deeply loved she is. How all of these things that she misinterpreted as hurt from others weren't that they weren't loved, or they didn't love her, or they rejected her, or they abandoned her, you know, it was that they couldn't hold themselves. So they couldn't hold me.
Mhm.
To learn, I would just snuggle hug her. I would hold her. I would let her feel, and to not walk away from that. I would say, give me your snots, give me your tears, give me your true feelings, give me your rage, give me your grief, because someone needs to catch it. And I would let her know that all of those versions of her were welcome. Because if those versions were allowed to come out, a lot of addictions would have never started,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would let her, there's a course I taught all around the country called Let It Out. I would teach her to
Mhm.
let it out, and I would let her let it out. Because I'll tell you, there's not an adult I see now that doesn't need to learn how to do that even better. Well,
Totally.
some, some,
Totally.
right?
Oh,
Yeah.
and I just want to honor for just a moment, just that that younger version gets to grow up and be you. And just what a victory, what a celebration, what a just coming home to knowing that the version that struggled, the version that didn't feel worthy, the version that self abandoned, she now gets to show up as you in her purpose, in her glory, in her dharma, to be of service to the whole world just by being the light and the vibration that you carry, that you emanate. Whether or not you're working one on one with somebody, just being that,
Mhm.
what a success story that that version gets to be you.
Mm, I love that. Yeah. Yeah. And I would add to that, to anyone listening, that it's absolutely okay to get have that old version triggered.
Mhm.
That she still lives inside of you. He or she still lives inside of you, even in our Wellbriety, right? So that's where we use our tools. But you can have a toolbox, and it's okay to get triggered, but learning how to hold yourself is everything.
Mhm.
Learning how to love yourself and not leave yourself.
Mhm.
These are the tools.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And you're welcome to, you don't have to, but I'm curious if you've had any, like you could be specific or general with this as you like, but being that cycle breaker and acknowledging like, oh my gosh, I'm the one in the family line. Oh gosh. Like having that conscious awareness, that moment where you're like, oh God, it's me. You
Yeah.
know, did you have any sort of reflection in your recovery journey on how that had repaired something in your lineage? Did that ever come through in any
Oh,
physical or metaphysical or just cognizant way of knowing that what you did ripple out and change something?
yes. Um, there are a lot of pattern breakers, I think, that really feel like black sheep, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things, if it hasn't been obvious on this, on our talk here, is that I am a warrior for the heart, in the sense of those beings that feel like they don't fit, or who never really learn to love themselves well,
Mm-hmm.
right? So realizing that I was the pattern breaker, it's come in waves. It really has. I remember thinking, wow, there's 3 generations of, say, eating disorders in my family, and I never knew it. I'm
Mm-hmm.
someone who is a very porous, like spongy in that sense. So I'd feel people's things and feelings and things, but the freedom that comes out of that, it makes you know, I think you really understand how everything is interconnected, right? How
Mm-hmm.
we can be in nature and release into her, how we can feel another's pain, right? There's so much to learn, but once you understand that interconnectedness, I don't heal on behalf of my family or myself. I heal on behalf of the world.
Mm,
I don't teach or speak. Just there's nothing about it that's just for me. No, it's the we energy. It's the
mhm,
oneness of it, right? And so mm, it that's there's no greater way to understand the medicine inside of you than to put someone in front of you that's suffering where you have the medicine to help them. And you
mhm,
might have to learn to not, I might have had to learn not to sacrifice myself. We're always learning these journeys, but I've certainly learned then what I'm passionate about by getting the very things in front of me that are A, like me in lessons that I've learned.
mhm,
So yeah, it feels great to break patterns, but if you're breaking them for humanity, you're breaking them for all the barriers that we've carried culturally, internally, through our world. And there are a lot of them breaking right now. There's a
mhm,
lot of rise of feminine leadership, of heart leadership in this way,
mhm,
on all fronts. That is, it's finding its voice, We can't, I love, as much as I'm a heart, I'm an analytical, logical thinker. And you've said it in the beginning, like it doesn't, that gets us so far,
yeah,
right? But when
yeah.
you're sitting with
And don't
someone,
get rid of the logic and the thought, but add the heart with it.
right, right. And that coherence, that intelligence, that understanding, it really does, it really opens it up to, we're not some limited, powerless humans here, you
Mhm,
know, that are here to be victim to everything that's happened and to have shitty self-esteem. Like we are really here as as a oneness of humanity, here to lead and guide and bring the heart back into balance in a world that's pushed it down,
mhm,
right? To be all interconnected in this way is is a gift. So it starts from within. It
mhm,
starts from us interconnecting the pieces of ourselves and being able to hold all those pieces and to understand them. It's a soul's journey, right?
mhm,
It's our life journey. Everyone's got different, but
mhm.
yeah,
It
it's
is fascinating how interconnected we really are. I mean, I know in my experience as a fellow black sheep pattern interrupter, I literally have had moments of going through some kind of recovery journey and then getting a text from a family member. Like literally, it can happen like boom, 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 or a couple family members, or somebody tells me a story and a memory has resurfaced, or something has happened where you're like, oh my gosh, like what we're doing here is showing me that it just created a ripple in somebody else's experience that healed something in my lineage.
mm,
And it hasn't been often that I've gotten those reflections, but it has happened. And when it does happen, it literally blows my mind. I'm just like, wow, when we do this work, our family can feel it.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. And for all the mamas out there, right, that do the work, and all the fathers out there that do the work, it's like we don't realize that this is passing. We're saying this stops here. This
Yeah.
stops here. We don't want this to continue on to generations. So
Mm,
yeah, there's a lot there
yeah.
out there.
What
Yeah.
are some of the what is some of that spiritual hygiene that you have now that allows you to be a compassionate witness without empathically sponging everything now? Are there ways, because we don't stop ourselves from being deep feelers and
No.
taking in a lot, especially porous individuals? We feel with our whole being, we hear with our whole being. But what are some of the tools or practices or resources that have helped you to stay in check when you are feeling big things, but not running away from them?
For me, that extremist that we talked about a while ago, I think had to really bring things to a max, which I hope not everyone has to do, right?
Mhm.
And in that max, you just realize you can't hold stuff, or you invite toxic energy into your life, and then you realize like you're not well, right?
Mhm.
It could be with a partnership, or you're trying to carry something that's not yours. And so for me, that spiritual hygiene really came from no. Like it wasn't like, oh yeah, well, let's just take a breath and like push that energy back. It's like, hell no, no more.
Yes.
No, I'm never doing that again. And then you might learn it in another layer and lesson, and you're like, no, that's not how it goes. And so it's sometimes it comes from us like, you burn your hand on a stove, you're not going to keep touching a stove. But in self-abandonment, that's tricky. The layers are tricky because it comes in different ways. So
Mhm.
these practices of understanding that I'm to really loving yourself is something important. Going, no one's going to teach me how to love myself, but I'm not here. I just said I don't want a war within me all the time.
Mhm.
So the spiritual practices are going, okay, like, well, I can feel if I hug someone and I just pick something up, okay, gonna go out and use nature. I'm gonna use my breath. I'm gonna, use visualization and give that back. Going, I'm not a receptacle for this, right?
Mhm.
Or if I have a conversation with a lot of us have tricky situations with our families because if you're black sheep and you're shifting it out, right? So if you have a conversation and you just go, well, that's their stuff, that's their belief, but I'm still going to love myself. That doesn't mean, it doesn't mean I have to change.
Mhm.
When you've been taught to kind of adapt to survive, it's where a lot of addictions also come in too. We're adapting. But you're saying, no, I don't need to adapt and they can keep their stuff and I can keep mine. But so being able to differentiate and where the boundary is within yourself.
Mhm.
A lot of us kind of have to fight it off and then we go, no, it's just me. It's where you see very composed people walk into a room of danger. The greatest things I ever did is I spent 5 years training with a man that taught Sistema or Berkut. His name was Alex Popiesco. And he was incredible. He was special ops forces for the military. But I met him at a time when I had no boundary, no anything. And this man was so composed, he could be in a room, but he was able to watch it. He was able to spot where danger would be. And he
Mhm.
didn't overreact. He just responded and then went back to his center and responded and went back to his center.
Mhm.
So being able to learn spiritual hygiene like that, to go, okay, that just happened. Okay,
Mhm.
that's not mine. I'm
Mhm.
back to my center, right? And I use so much of what I've learned from him. He always said, some of us just sit there like we're like a dartboard. Doot doot. Oh, I feel so much. Okay. Yeah, but you don't have to. Part of your mastery is learning how to be a sensitive soul and how to keep your energy clean, how to not take things on, right? Because we don't have to. Again, that's that victim to freedom energy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I see so many of my energetically sensitive brothers and sisters and overwhelmed, rightfully so. So
Mhm.
you and I'm sure we all get overwhelmed with being able to say, "Oh, I need to take a salt bubble bath right now. Oh, I need to go take a walk in a forest or on a beach or even around the block barefoot. I
Mhm.
need to go play right now with my animals or my kids or just by myself. I need to dance to a goofy song. These are all ways to move energy and
Yeah.
they move energy well. But
Yeah.
to say that's what I need to do in order to balance myself. So when I go to bed tonight, I'm not spinning from the conversations that I've just had all day.
Mhm.
Is making that stuff a priority.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of it.
Yeah, boundaries are so vital. And, boundaries are how I've taught people how to love me. It's the most loving thing that I could have done was to share what a boundary was instead of being the people pleasing doormat and then having this passive aggression or this resentment because I didn't speak my voice, because I didn't think it was deserving to be heard or what have you. So I've come to really see how helpful boundaries are. And when other people share their boundaries, it's such a helpful love language to know how can I love you in the best way that we both feel safe in this container.
Right. And how to recognize that some people won't be able to hear that and
Yeah.
they might be triggered, but to know this is my boundary, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love how you put that. It's just learning these things, you know, in a lot of my one-on-one work, what I see is that we could hear these concepts,
Mm-hmm.
but being able to work with people where they get to go inside to say, what part of me is believing that? Because you can change something mentally, but the inner work is being able to hold that part to say, like for me, I really, 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 it took me up to I was in my fourth decade. I'm still in my fourth decade, but it took me up until my fourth decade to say, what is sitting inside that believes it's my job to hold everyone else's emotions?
Mm-hmm.
Like because I am helping people work through their emotions, but I'd still, people would tell me where they were at, and I'd still be, okay, let's fix this, let's do this. I'm like, no, that's not my job. You're able to say, hey, this is where I'm at, and I'm going to hold that space and just let you figure it out and work with it, right? It's not my job to hold your emotions. And the people that have been dumping that on you won't like it when you realize that. But
Mm-hmm.
that's your boundary. Then going, no, I have 5 minutes to talk today,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then taking the extra hour that you normally let them dump on you and go spend it outside and go dance and go play
Yeah.
and go create. Right? Those are these micro acts of self-love that when you add them up, they turn into really strong muscles.
Ah, I love that. I love that. I know when I was first getting sober, I heard all of these stories about people having spiritual awakenings through their sobriety. And I didn't just believe it, or I didn't believe that it was possible or that it could happen to me. Like, I just didn't think that that could be a natural byproduct of recovery, of the freedom, that literal shift from the victim consciousness into the creator consciousness, like a before and an after. And it can be hard to think about like what the moment was for me. I could think of a few moments, but I'm curious, in your experience, did you feel like on the other side of the sobriety came a spiritual awakening?
Hmm. Well, it's a good question. Absolutely. Absolutely. But what, like, I'm thinking back to, I was living at the Omega Institute in upstate New York, which is a big holistic retreat center,
Mm,
for part of me even opening to the fact that there is other ways to be than,
mhm,
small town Midwest upbringing, right? And so,
mhm,
like, but I remember because at that time I was I had spent many years where I'd wake up and I'd have alcohol at breakfast time, and I just needed a drink in my hand. And I was going to parties and people were drinking at parties, even up in and when I was in New York, people were drinking at parties. And um I was staff, right? I was staff in different ways. And something clicked. And I realized here's like I have a thermos here, right? And I realized that it wasn't even the alcohol. I needed to be engaging in something when I was talking to people. So I start drinking tea. And I
mm,
go to parties and because I didn't, at that point, I was done with feeling like shit in the morning from alcohol. My
uh,
body was too sensitive. I'd have dark circles under my eyes. I just didn't feel good the next morning. And I was done with that. I was like, I've lived through many lives of many years of that.
mhm.
But I was like, oh. And so if I had something in my hand, just like this, and I drink all night long, and I drink just as much as people were drinking alcohol, but I drink tea.
Wow.
I started traveling all over the world with tea then. And
Mm,
I'd make tea for everybody. I stopped bringing alcohol and I'd be like, hey, would you like some tea? And we'd share conversation over tea. And
wow.
people were like, what? And it was this way for me to chain break, but a way for me to show that sometimes our patterns come out of our nervousness and that our
Yes.
anxiety, we just need to do something to calm it. And I was like, oh, look at that. I wasn't, that addiction kind of had shifted out, but it shifted out in such a beautiful way. It was a spiritual awakening for me. I was like, oh, what? I, you know, and
I love that.
and that's and it's pretty cool. I wonder how many times we can look back and go, when did this start? Well, I was nervous. I was overwhelmed. Okay, let's go to that place and let's learn how to hold ourselves there differently. We can heal way faster if we understand the roots. And there's not a lot of teachings out there to teach us how to understand the roots.
Mhm.
and to again with that feminine leadership to bring in nourishment to a root that just needs nourishment. It needs a safety. Learning how to give ourselves that safety opens up huge spiritual gifts inside.
Mhm.
Huge coming back to loving ourselves, you know? It's like, wow. I geek out at this now because
I
I
love it.
understand it like ripples fast, you know, fireworks fast out there. Once we start to heal the roots, our lives can drastically change overnight.
Ugh, I love it. I
Overnight.
love that so much because it's so true. Like the just the pacifier of just having something on hand. And I think about, knowing what I know now and feeling how I feel now, to be able to look back and see like alcohol is a spirit. It's a spirit that moves through the environment. And now I've got like 20 mason jars of herbal teas around me. And every single one has a frequency, has an energy to it, has a reason why I will choose this one over this one. And just to think like, wow, in the mutation of growth and the evolution of working with one spirit and replacing it with another spirit in the herbal kingdom,
Yes.
so powerful to see. Like I can be so supported by the herbal kingdom, and now instead of feeling like shit the next day,
Right. Right.
I can
Right.
actually go to tea with friends and have this enlightening conversation by inviting in that spirit, that living frequency of whatever that tea is. And I love that you did that so much.
As you're talking, my mind is thinking about how so much of all of this really starts with us coming from a world that has taught us to suppress our true selves, right? That there's
Mhm.
parts of us that were allowed and loved and parts of us that weren't.
Mhm.
I look at like a lot of people recovering in different ways from sex, sexual addiction, sex this, and how much that energy of that life force is pressed down.
Mhm.
So when I'm working with women coming out of shame, out of their bodies, and having been through someone that's done that, and witnessing the freedom that comes, but also that deep self-honesty of I get to express, and it doesn't have to be like I don't have to do it in like you've just talked about with your or like the herbs.
Mhm.
There's a way to turn a lot of addictions into like the deepest medicine that we have.
Yeah.
And when we look at going from suppression to expression in healthy ways, we could do
Mhm.
10,000 segments on that. Like I'm
I
thinking about,
know.
as I think about that I know you and I are both surrounded by women and men expressing themselves, their sensuality in very healthy ways,
Mhm.
but we're not taught that. And look how
Mhm.
much is pressed down, and look how much is hidden, and look how much is comes out with people needing to naturally express an energy that is natural,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
I mean, it opens up a lot of doors that I know some of the people in this world are ready for, and some are not yet, so, but
Yeah.
if we could move from suppression and shame into that radical self-honesty and expression in healthy ways, there's a whole lot that could heal very quickly. It's
Mhm.
just given a different context, right? So
Yeah. And like I said, at the beginning or towards the beginning, that addict in me led me down a lot of paths and created a lot of experiences and provided a lot of growth and a lot of learning for me. And when I first got into spiritual circles and everything like that, and I had heard this idea of killing off the ego and thinking that like my job was to kill off this part of me, and then to actually go through the journey and realize like, no, I need to accept this part of me, I need to love this part of me, I need to have compassion for this part of me. And I have some friends that actually have like alter egos for that gremlin inside of them, that addict personality. But they can say that addict personality was the one that stood up to the boss. It was the one that quit that job, was the one that got out of that toxic relationship, like was the fire inside me
mhm.
that said, we're going to catalyze change in some kind of way. And so I can now have so much grace for that version of me that before it knew another way. It was trying all of these different things out, see what would stick, what could work. And all of it was learning, all of it was growth now.
Right. That's
Yeah.
it. Yes. Beautiful. That's beautiful.
What does, I know we've used this term a few times in the conversation, but what does Wellbriety mean to you?
Hmm. Wellbriety to me, it's just equals well-being, you know? It is living well-being, you know,
Mhm.
living well-being out loud.
Mm.
I do believe that's an ongoing journey. I think that that's something that keeps evolving, but knowing that we are on that well-being path really allows this ignition of, you know, unleashing our potential.
Mm.
Yeah, it really does. Unleashing the so much power. It's beautiful. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. What does it mean to you?
It feels like right relationship. I think that when I played with the term sobriety, I felt like there was a part of me that was still suppressing something, or I wasn't allowed to have something, or I wasn't in control of something. And it felt like, well, does alcohol still have control over me if I can't have a drop and I have this sort of judgment around it? And I think Wellbriety sort of opened up a different vibration in me around I choose not to drink alcohol because it doesn't serve me. And I am in control of that choice. But that's me being in right relationship with myself and the environment around me to choose an herbal tea over alcohol. But for me, Wellbriety felt a little bit more expansive for
Mhm.
me than sobriety did, and even I'll say I quit alcohol, like I chose to quit it, because I don't want to give the power away to what alcohol was, but Wellbriety just feels like this more sort of indigenous way of being in right relationship that I'm not depriving myself of something. I'm actually choosing wellness in its fullest capacity for what that is for me and what it means to be in harmony. That's my Libra moon of like, how can I be in harmony with everything? And so just being in the well-briety and the well-beingness of it, there's not a deprivation there. There's like a very conscious choice that this serves me and this doesn't. So I'm not going to do this.
Right. Right. Beautiful.
Mm.
Ugh. I remember thinking, isn't it funny that on this planet we're taught to use toxins as gifts for ourselves,
Mm.
right? Like, oh, it's my birthday. I need chocolate cake. Not that chocolate cake's a toxin, but there's so many processed sugars and these things. And being someone that had a big time addiction to sugars and to bulimia and to all this, like I understand the beast of it, right? But isn't it
Mhm.
funny that we're taught, oh, it's my birthday, I need a drink. Oh, I'm stressed out, I need a drink.
Yeah.
And it was, isn't it funny that I often thought, well, what if we were in a culture that didn't teach that, that
Yeah.
didn't reward our celebrations with poison?
Yeah.
It's, I, it's just, it's a learned behavior. So,
Totally.
okay, I'm stressed out. I need to give myself this thing. What if it, I mean, we're talking about a whole different way
Yeah.
right now of the replacements energies that we use, but we're replacing it because of ways that we've been taught in this
Yeah.
body to live, right?
Yeah.
So, to
Yeah.
me, it's more about re-educating ourselves, like, oh, well, yeah, this doesn't make me feel good.
Yeah.
You know, I
Yeah.
remember thinking, you know how I cut out, one of the reasons alcohol was a challenge, I challenged myself. I said, everyone that I grew up around used alcohol to say, "Oh, I move uninhibited." And I was like, "Well,
Mm.
I was never really taught to be myself, but I don't want to. I want to be able to be uninhibited without needing to use something." So I practiced I was scared, but I practiced starting to speak my truth. I practiced being more open, more, fun, more jovial, more in my sensuality. Without it, because I wanted to learn, I wanted it to not have to open that piece. I wanted to say, who is she? And why is that part stuck? Like, why does that part need alcohol? So I went on a backwards journey, through all of this, and it worked. It
I love
worked.
that. I
I
love that.
opened up learning about myself through all of these things, and I by kind of um dissecting them, I'm like someone that's inspecting and going, okay, what is the word's not inspection, it's like when you're microscoping and going, okay, well, why does this equal this, and what happens like if I don't need that, and I was like, wow, I'm just as happy at parties, but I needed something to ease my anxiety. Okay, you know
Yeah.
You know, we just get tired of it, if you get tired of something, go, okay, it's time to change it then, like,
Yeah.
why not?
Yeah. You're allowed to outgrow who you used to be.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. And that's where identity level transformation comes in.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us are taught that we're not supposed to change. We are. We're on that death to rebirth over and over and over and over again cycle. And I love that we're talking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not about figuring life out and then being able to exhale. It's about going through the stress and exhale at the same time and
Yes.
having highs and lows and not judging ourselves through it.
Oh.
Yeah.
I love that you brought up the reward system because that's what kept me perpetuating the toxic cycle that I was in for so long because society had all this programming around treat yourself. You're worth it. You worked hard. Go get that drink. Go have that second piece of pie, whatever it was. Like it's so enforced in our predictive programming of the commercial mainstream of you deserve it. Reward yourself with whatever that toxic thing is. And just like you said, it had to be, well, actually, I know from the past, if I do that thing, I'm going to feel like shit. And now I know that I'm going to feel like shit. So now, on top of feeling like shit, there's also that little chit chatter that's like, you knew that you were going to feel like shit. Why did you do
Right.
it?
Right. Yeah. And I would say for anyone out there listening, to know that it seems to be that as we decide to have that path of well-briety, that as we choose to go, you know what, I don't know how yet, but I'm going to learn to love myself better,
Mm,
that these things ease out. I have no desire anymore to make myself throw up or to get to alcohol. It doesn't even sound good. And it took so many years to phase that out.
mm,
I have no desire to dance with toxic people the way I did before. Like these desires shift and change as we grow, but it's okay. It's
mm,
okay that that that's that part of we naturally evolve. And if you decide to love yourself, even if you're not good at it, you put
mm,
yourself around environments that are healthier than you currently are, it's going to be a challenge. You will break down to break through, but you will break open. And in
mm,
there's your freedom, there's your power, there's the pieces of you that haven't been able to land in your body because it hasn't been safe.
mm,
Yeah. There's so
mm,
much in this path. I
mm,
love these conversations with you because there's so much healing, so much untalked about. And it's time. It's absolutely time. It's time. Yeah.
I love that quote that says, if the flower doesn't bloom, you don't change the flower, you change the environment. And just like where you started at the beginning, if we're in a toxic environment, a lot of times that's what needs to change. It's not necessarily us, it's the resonant chamber that we keep ourselves in. And when we can make the shift, which can be really hard to let go of the pattern, the friends, the group, whatever it is, but to see that you're worth it and that, I know, at least in my experience, when I let go of the things that I was trying to call my friends, but they were acquaintances. And, that when I let go of it, I actually opened the space for a real, true, solid soul family to walk in. And
Wow.
that fractal family has changed the game because now instead of trying to make myself contort to this environment that really isn't serving, now I've actually opened myself up to be in the vibration of people where we get it. Like we understand one another and we can go out for tea and we can go out and not get lit, and it can
Right.
be so much
Right.
more soul fulfilling and enriching.
I love this. It's making me think of how, I mean, years ago, the term woo woo, right? Oh, is that kind of woo? And I still hear it and I laugh because I'm like, that's just people I mean, but I love the fact that there is more well-being and more healthy options out there right now.
Yeah.
And it is about moving from an environment that is what you know, right,
Mhm,
into a
mhm,
space, but there are people doing things that you haven't tried, but it's a welcoming understanding. It's going to feel weird.
mhm,
It's going to feel scary.
mhm,
But there's a story you talked about changing environments, and it made me think of a sub story on this,
mhm.
if I may, for a sec here.
Yeah.
Like my cousin, my cousins, my aunt would she sent my cousin two plants, and my cousin put these plants in pots, and she's like, wow, this one is growing and it's great. And she goes, but this other one, I'm giving it water, I'm giving it sunlight, I'm giving it nourishment like what it needs, and it's not blooming and it's not growing. And her mom said, well, how big is the pot? She goes, oh, it's a big pot. There was another plant in it, but that one died. And she said, put the plant in a smaller pot. There's your safety, right? Put your plant in a smaller pot. You're learning how to hold yourself, right? And she goes, I put that plant in a smaller pot. That's all I did different. It was just not out there. And and as soon as I did, it bloomed. Right. So it's
Yes.
when we become safe, it's not only the environments and changing the environment, but when we say, I make that choice to say, this toxicity is not longer for me, but healthy living. I want to love myself better. I want to live in a healthier way. You start with the desire, right? And then I go, and in that, I'm going to become a safer place for myself. And you learn that sometimes by modeling after some of these people, doing things differently, going, oh, they're not eating, shit takeout food for lunch. They're making something. And I learned how, and I tried it. No, I have more energy. Okay. And it's just noticing, what does my internal GPS tell me? That feels better. Okay. Can I add more of that in? What is my internal GPS telling me when I'm in these environments of people just drinking and eating shit because that's what it's been happening for generations and well, I don't feel good. Okay. You know, when we're ready, we shift. Not, oh, I need to. No, when we're ready, we shift. So give yourself a safe place to grow. And that is an internal job. Hand on heart. What do I need? I'm nervous right now. Okay, let's calm me down. I don't need something to calm me down. Let's calm me down. I got it. Let's listen to some music. Let's do life affirming things, right?
Mhm.
When we become safe, a safe place for ourselves in the world that has not always taught us how to do that well, there's so much more possible. So much. So you
That's the
get me going
revelation.
here.
Yeah.
So,
So as we begin to wind down now, I would love to invite you, if it feels in alignment, to share just some words of wisdom or a prayer or whatever's alive for you on your heart for anybody that's listening now. And whatever is just coming through you, it doesn't have to be for one particular listener, but for whatever is just alive in this moment to share. And if you desire for anybody to be able to contact you, go ahead and share what that would look like.
okay. It's a good. I feel like this whole conversation with you has been an out loud prayer. It's good, right?
Yeah,
It just
it
isn't
has for
we're both
me.
so passionate about this subject. This is the longest interview, and it's been wonderful. Um, okay, so as we come to a close here, I would let me just sit with this for a minute. There's so much that we've talked about. I think the biggest message to offer is that it's okay to quote not get it right. Right? In that sense of I think back to all the time where I thought I was broken. I thought I wasn't enough. Uh, I felt too ashamed to show up as I did, but or too ashamed to admit that I needed more than my life and environment was giving me. But during those times of being radically honest with myself and then having the courage to try something new, the greatest openings, the greatest healings, the greatest breakdown to breakthroughs happened. So it's okay to not know. But sometimes it's even better to admit what's not working because that first step opens up, as we know in the steps, right, to more and more and more. If it's okay with you, I want to open up just for a little higher guidance to flow through here because it feels like it's a proper time, right? You know, that was a gift. That's been a gift to open up into in my healing, to understand that higher guidance, that a guidance bigger than me could flow through. And we all have at those moments when we help someone and more comes through that feels even powerful than just the I. Right? So for me, higher guidance would offer in this moment that there is not this aloneness that people speak of. What there is a disconnection from self, a disconnection from love, a disconnection from the whole. So in those moments of aloneness, please remember that you are one inside of the heart, connected to the heart, connected to the heart of all. When you open to remember, the magnets get to come out to invite more love in and invite more of that wholeness to be remembered. To speak of a world that is unjust is easy. To speak of a world of wholeness that can be created is harder. The wholeness that we can create within ourselves opens up way more, I'm saying like way more assistance and love to come in. I'll end in this and say that the moment is in the decision. And sometimes it's not one decision, sometimes it's a million decisions of the same saying, I want more, I'm ready for more. And I always come back to love. It's love. I'm going to learn to love. I'm love. I'm choosing love. I'm choosing love instead of fear this time. I'm choosing to love myself more than trying to help others and losing myself again. I'm choosing to love myself more by saying no to something that my body's been trying to tell me is too much. I'm choosing to love myself by walking away from an energy that doesn't feel good anymore inside of me. This kind of love is what's needed now. And this kind of love will bring you home.
Mm, I could talk to you all day long. Thank you.
I think I've cried more tears unseen, undripped than on this interview than most.
It's so beautiful. I'm so grateful for this conversation, for this ability to connect heart to heart. and just this ability to be authentic in the cocoon, in the womb, and to share from the reality of what how much beauty is in the womb.
Mm.
We are here on the becoming journey. It's a journey. It's not about the destination. And there's so many twists and turns and characters that you'll meet along the way, and the feelings that are overwhelming, and the rejection and the betrayal and the heartache and all of it. And yet, here we are, still finding the beauty on the other side and still experiencing the freedom of
Mm.
what it is to become self aware and radically responsible, to just own our shit, be
Right.
accountable for it, and to know that we're human and we're going to stay in this flesh suit until we've completely figured it all out. Now we won't need this flesh suit anymore. So, you
Right.
know,
Right. Right. To give yourself permission to, we say, to be brilliant and imperfect at the same time.
yeah.
To know, I mean, if you sit and listen, really listened to this whole interview, there's so much more said than just the words. And we've said a lot, right? That
Mhm.
there's that transmission of heart space, and uh, we're here and we're showing up. And sometimes that's all that matters, is that you show up, right? And magic can happen in
Thank you for showing up today.
that. Thank you for the brilliant invitation.
I'm sending you so
Um,
much love.
Oh, yes. Oh, I forgot to answer. And for anyone that wants to get a hold of,
Yeah.
in this space more, I'm pretty easy to find on crystalcubist.com, or under social media, it's Chrystal Fireheart Cubist. And we've been offering a bit more group work, a bit more one-on-one work. And so for anyone that's wanting that extra guidance and assistance and pointers in positive directions, please consider me a resource for that. And yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Mhm.
Sending you so much love. Let's just go ahead and take one more breath together. Just allow all these words, all this vibration, this frequency, this love to just land. And knowing that we're doing the best that we can. And that's what we signed up to do. And you're not alone. None of us are alone. I love what you said about that aloneness. Sometimes we forget, but hopefully in conversations like this, we can remember again together. So thank
Yeah,
you.
yes.
Enjoy the rest of your day. Namaste.
Thank you. Namaste.